Well, hello, and welcome back to the shack for another fireside chat. It's cold, frigid, and the snow's piled high beyond here, but within this little shack, it's intimate and warm. And as you can see, we have the transforming and illuming nature of the fire at my elbow. You know, it's interesting when we look at a fire and that process of transformation, how it's melting the old wood and returning sun to the world, that there's also this corollary theme that goes on that's so nicely represented here by these pots. The reality of water is being changed, and whereas it was liquid, it's now a gas as the steam arises from the heat. And as we proceed on this journey of remembering and understanding, it's important to remember that as we allow transformations in our life, it has some change on the world around us. So there have been many responses from the last video regarding the veils, and many of the questions were pretty much the same. Why were they there? How are they there? Whoops, this fire is liking us so much, it's moving right out into our living room here. So whoops, it's really coming along. Let me just reclaim the sanity of the stove. Oops, it doesn't want to hear about it. But at any rate, one of my favorite things. So coming back to the many questions regarding the veils, why are they there in the first place, and what to do about them? So let's reflect for a moment today on probably, as I see it, the two largest primary conditions which underlie people's willingness to assume these addictive relationships beyond themselves, which have obscured their deeper meaning and darkened the lantern of their soul. Let me start with suffering again. Suffering may be one of the most insidious and unacceptable aspects of the existence experience. But the journey of life, that which we have been speaking, gives some value to that suffering. Because creating space for life and illuminating the darkness is not easy. But with that understanding, it's not about that we're not good enough, nor original sin, or even karmic debt. But it's rather about this is the work, this is the mission, this is the goal of life and existence, to create more life. And it does imply some hard work. But friends, we're not afraid of hard work. We have endured for the ages, and we're still here. So remembering that there's value in our struggle, I think gives much more meaning and sense to our presence. The other one that is huge is the sense of separateness. And when we look at that, probably more than any other underlying condition, it begets these veils. The veils of material and power, ego and body. And in the misuse and or abuse of our world, as we addict ourselves or claim rights to these particular out there in the world aspects, it reminds us that individuality is a bold creation, but yet it's very necessary in existence in this world. It's so much easier for a tree to do what it does with 10,000 smaller leaves than one large one. And I sure love, as an individual, walking out and joining in with your glow and experiencing your loves and friendships. And it has value. But individuality also implies a sense of separateness. And this is the crux of the problem. But let's look at it from the standpoint that if we're living within the qualities of life, and that is expressing our creation, sharing our caring, and living sensuously and intimately with the world around us, we have reestablished or remain connected to that umbilical cord, which is in fact the river of life. And from that standpoint, we can know, although we sense separateness and sometimes feel alone, we remain connected to all that truly is. And you know, much of the deeper seeking, whether it be of God for salvation, for spirituality, and the spiritual path itself, hold the sense of communion as the primary means of the search. And that unity can only be satisfied as we play out our place in this world of life, for here is where we are. And once again, if we allow ourselves to remain connected to those very essence and essential qualities of life, we may sense separateness, but we are not alone. And again, we do remain to that very deep and meaningful aspect of creation itself. Though apart, we are very much involved. Some might say, after listening to these, you know, and the snow slides from the roof, they may say, you know, sounds like a lot of work. And as a matter of fact, I can see stars from the bottom of a well. But can we? We may glimpse a star or two from the bottom of a well when these obscuring veils are in place. But friends, we will never know the heavens in which these stars belong. Nor will we ever know that space in which the twinkle comes to us. And most importantly, if this is our attitude, if we are happy as things as they are, and dare not to look deeper and long, then we will never take our place in the stars. I'm done with you is a shout, a plea from a friend of ours named Corey. And he was responding with the question of, how do I deal with the injuries? How best to resolve some of the conflict that has attached to his beingness throughout his life. And there was one particular incident, I think a psychic wound, that he wrestled with and handcuffed him for a long time. And I'm sure Corey doesn't mind me sharing this with you. And Corey just rode again from the fire. So we'll put him back. Now, I don't know what it is with this particular log, but the life in it wants to be part of the show. Okay. But at any rate, it was interesting the way Corey came to the point when he said, in a very direct way, I'm done with you. Because I want to draw on the biology of a tree to express one of the meaningful ways to deal with our injuries, whether they be psychological, abandonment, physical, spiritual, or whatever. In a tree's biology, when an injury occurs, as did occur at these two dark spots here, this was a borer infection, a tree will tend to immediately send forth a biochemical wall and essentially wall that wound off and then quickly add new life in the area. But it doesn't always happen that way. Some trees' biology tells them to try to flush the initial wound, send repellents, deal with it, stay with it. And this was what happened in this case. It did not effectively wall off what was once a single borer invasion. But rather, through this space, it was sending new energy, much repellent, to try to directly fight this decay that was setting in. And in last week's storm, this tree failed, and that is why. So as regards our own injuries, as much as we can extrapolate from the biology of a tree, I think it's important to remember that once we have gained perspective and understanding from what wrong or hurt has occurred, that we do as a tree does, and we wall it off and get back to expressing life in its vibrant, giving fashion. In other words, where hurt has come, if we can learn from it, fine, but then do not linger there. Move on, put down much new wood, surround that old wound, and be done with it, as Corey would say. You know, I think this cedar tree had beautifully shown how effectively it walled off injuries over the ages of its long 100-year life. And see the radiant new wood, new living, and the decay never got out and consumed the entire structure of its beingness. I think that's quite beautiful. So friends, when dusting off our lanterns are complete, we gain immeasurably from the efforts of lifting and removing these veils. Most importantly, we add luminosity to the world around us. We become more valid and relevant. There is a glow, and which, by the way, I have certainly experienced lately in those who have gathered to receive this message in part, and thank you. But there is a glow, and that the best and greatest benefit we can bestow on the world around us is to allow others to have that glow as well. You know, when we get above suffering and the sense of separation, throughout the process, we not only come to sense and know that we have wings, but we also come to understand how to use them. And in this, we allow others to know they have wings as well. So thank you for coming into the shack, and a good day.
Thank you.